Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US military has confirmed that the first aid shipment via a temporary pier off Gaza has gone ashore. US Central Command confirmed in a post on X, formerly Twitter, that the aid trucks began moving ashore at around 9 a.m. local time. The US began building the floating base weeks ago to facilitate the delivery of aid to Gaza as Israel continues its military campaign against Hamas. The announcement comes after it was reported on Wednesday hundreds of tons of aid had arrived in Cyprus, where screening takes place before being loaded onto commercial ships for delivery to the pier.
So this is due to start over the weekend, all being well, subject to weather. Because if the weather gets even a little bit rough, sea state 3, which is 2.5 to 4 foot waves, is okay for ships, but it's very difficult for a jetty if you've got trucks moving along it. So it's very subject to weather. So they've got it anchored. The causeway is ready. We'll see if the weather cooperates, and over the weekend trucks begin to roll onto the pier, onto the ship, off the ship onto the causeway, off the causeway onto the beach, and then at least it's in Gaza.
Israel has accused South Africa of distorting reality in its attempt to get the UN's top court to force it to stop its military campaign in the town of Rafah in southern Gaza. South Africa's ambassador to the Netherlands asked judges to order Israel to immediately, totally and unconditionally withdraw the Israeli army from the entirety of the Gaza Strip. The International Court of Justice has begun 2 days of hearings. The court is already considering a case brought by South Africa in January, accusing Israel of committing genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza.
Israel's genocide has continued apace and has just reached a new and horrific stage.
French police have killed a man after a synagogue was set on fire in the northwest city of Rouen. The man was reportedly armed with a knife and an iron bar, and when he went towards police, an officer shot him. Rouen mayor said the attack on the synagogue did not just affect the Jewish community, but the entire city was battered and in shock. Police were called at around 6:45 a.m. after smoke was seen rising from the synagogue. Russian President Vladimir Putin has landed in the Chinese city of Harbin, home to a large Russian population. He visited a China-Russia trade fair to underscore the strength of economic links between the countries. It comes a day after meetings between Mr. Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping, where they praised their deep ties. Russia has looked to China as a lifeline as it faces hundreds of sanctions from the US and its Western allies that aim to cripple Moscow's war machine. The Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has raised the possibility of closing French military bases in the country. Speaking at a conference in the capital Dakar, Mr. Sonko wondered why Senegal still had several French bases more than 60 years after independence from France. Mr. Sonko questioned the impact of the French military presence on the country's sovereignty. France has about 350 troops in Senegal. Scientists believe they may have solved the mystery of how 31 pyramids, including the world-famous Gaza complex, were built in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. A research team from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, has discovered that the pyramids are likely to have been built along a long-lost ancient branch of the River Nile, which is now hidden under desert and farmland. For many years, archaeologists have thought that ancient Egyptians must have used a nearby waterway to transport materials, such as the stone blocks needed to build the pyramids on the river. And an Italian woman has added another record to bolster her claim to be the fastest 90-year-old female sprinter in the world. And over age group this month when she ran the 200 meters in 51.47 seconds. Mazenga is one of the unsung stars of Italian athletics, currently holding 5 world records. Her next commitments include the Italian Championships starting in June, and she has an eye on the World Championships in Sweden next year, but Mazenga joked that she prefers not to make long-term plans. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.